Yo, this is John Rambo. We're going to talk about why initiative matters and why you should use initiative first blood. Recently a lot of games have started to get away from using initiative systems and basically allowing players and DMs to decide when they want to take a turn during a combat situation. Now, typically when we're having an adventuring party, we're in a forest, we're going down the forest. One thing you should always be asking your players, like, what is the marching order, right? And I think this is something we always do. And typically what happens is you get a tank that's get put somewhere in the front. Maybe the cleric, I would say maybe is in the back, but that's a little bit dangerous. I would put maybe a ranger in the back or even the rogue in the back. But then we would have the rogue or the cleric somewhere in the middle. So this is just kind of an example of what you might do for a marching order. But, that's all fine and dandy. But this is, I would say, a very, I don't want to say boring, but definitely not. You can make it more exciting than this. This initiative system also works really well if you're dungeon crawling. You want that fighter in the front. Actually, maybe you might even want that rogue in the front to kind of, be checking for traps or whatnot. But if you're going to have a tank in the front, you can easily walk into a room, find a monster, and you're going to be able to use that nice marching order. Now, I'm not completely opposed to this, but I also think in order to really create a little bit of edginess to your game, maybe a little bit of grit in your game, I really recommend adding what I would call initiative first blood. So that's basically what that is on the very first go of combat, you roll for initiative. And thereafter, you can decide to reorganize the group as best as possible, depending on the situation.
Get the men back into lines!
Your adventuring party is not a tactical team. I mean, they might do a little bit of planning, but when you think about a tactical team, they often plan for weeks, able to really determine how they would behave under situations where things don't go as planned. But your adventuring party is just a group of adventurers, and sure, they have some experience. Maybe they talked it out earlier, who's going to go first or how to organize during an encounter, which I think you can do and say that actually happens in your game.
If the plan fails, the existing plan, I make a new plan.
So you make plans that fail?
No.
But let's go back to that force situation, which I think, you should have more situations like this to really change the dynamics in your combat. Now, what I want you to consider is why initiative first blood really matters in the game. Yo, this is Johnny Rambo. One thing I always consider is whether or not combat's gonna go exactly as planned, right? And you always gotta think about whether or not you want a tactical grit, precision game, or if you want, whatever fluff kind of game. So, now here's a situation where the players are going down the path, and out of nowhere, monsters start attacking from the flank. Now, in this situation, it doesn't make any sense that you're going to have this really nice, clean, unique marching order. This is where I think rolling for initiative matters. These monsters are not coming directly in front of the players. They can be flanking. Or in another situation, they can be flanking on both sides and maybe something coming from the back. And think of another situation where perhaps the monsters are coming from above. This would immediately disrupt the order of having a tank go first and then potentially the cleric going last to heal everybody in the party.
Introduce a little anarchy. Upset the established order, and everything becomes chaos.
I think this adds a little bit more edginess to the game, a little more edginess to your combat, a little more grit. Now, when I talked about that tactical grit and fluff, look, I'm just kind of messing around, but it really is up to you. Do you want to have a more tactical, gritty type of game, or do you want to have a more little whatever fluffs? And there's no wrong way to play. So you really just got to choose where on this meter you want to land, and it's all completely good. So what I'm recommending is initiative first blood for the game, where players first make that initiative roll under those chaotic circumstances and then can decide to reorganize. If you're the tank and you happen to be fifth in the initiative order, you as a DM can allow the tank to do his attack, and then on the very next round, allowing them to maybe even slowly creep up the initiative order to become first, or go ahead and just let them jump to the top of the initiative order. Of course, not surpassing whatever the monsters rolled. And that's it, everybody. I just wanted to introduce this RPG boon, the initiative first blood, so that you can use in your game where you first roll that initiative, and then after that, you can decide on how you want to get your players to reorganize their group and have a more sequential attacking order. At least creating that initial first blood style of initiative roll, you can create a little more grit to your game, a little more chaoticism to your game. Is that a word? Is that a word? And that's it, everybody. I'm Don Franco 3. This is RPG Boons, where we talk about everything RPG and how everything is RP. If you like the cut of my gibberish, you know what to do. Leave me a comment. You know I'll get back to you. Until next time.